Okay, we're live.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Point Everett Village Council. It's 3:45 and it's last day of February, the 28th. We just attended Bridgeview School to have a look at their library facility over there that supports their application for some donations. So we went over and had a look, and that's where we were until we got here. So I'll read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Is there anyone with pecuniary interest?
I'm unknown.
Unknown.
No.
We have a delegation tonight, so Holly Howell is here from Ice Cream Galore to address council regarding St. Clair Reconstruction Project. And we have Lydia, who's here from MIG, which is our contracting company, our engineering firm that's working on that design. So
Holly, if you'd like to sit. Best. Tell us what you'd like to talk about.
I don't want to take up too much time. I just basically was looking at the drawing on my computer that I was sent, and I was having a hard time visualizing the parking spaces that we had available currently versus what will be available after the construction, because parking has always been a concern at our store. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I was going to come to your store, but there's no parking, so I went down the street. So anyways, I had asked Lydia, or my husband Andrew had asked Lydia to maybe mark out on the drawing the spaces. It's when you see a stretch of land, it's really hard to know how many cars can fit. And she's done that, so it's just looking that over, which is great. And I guess, I know this is nothing you can do about it, but another concern we had was the police park their personal vehicles all along the street in front of our store, sometimes lasting a full 12-hour shift. I know I have no right to ask them to move because it's a public street, but I don't know if there's any other options for them. A lot. Yeah, I don't think that is.
So just on that note, the OPP, it is the village police, but it's also used as a substation for the OPP that run on the highway. So there's people coming in and out from different areas. The only thing that, I mean, we could explore down the road is, and this came up in the past, but I don't know if they did anything about it. My church, the Presbyterian Church, has a parking lot that sits empty all day long, right across the road.
Yes.
I wouldn't say Brand Hall because it's always busy with the daycare and whatnot, but you know, they may be able to work something out with the church to just be able to park the cars over there and get people used to doing that.
Right.
But you know, I don't know if that would be feasible, but it was an idea I had in the back of my head. Because they don't have a lot of space between the cruisers and their own cars.
Yeah. It's hard to fit everybody in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was basically just looking to see if I could get.
Deputy Mayor Grimes?
So you've been given an updated map now of the
Yes.
parking, and are you okay with what's being proposed?
I was going to speak to it.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
So I kind of explained, I kind of laid out what is available now and how it overlays onto our design.
Is
So
that the current drawing up there
if I
now?
can, yeah, I printed
Okay,
in color, so I must use them.
okay, yeah, yes, please.
Everyone will be happy.
Thank you.
This helps.
Turn the chair around.
There are a couple of vehicles that help me a little.
It's hard to know.
How do you know?
Right, so what I've done on here, the lines in, there are certain kind of rules of the road, right? You are not allowed to park within 9 meters of a stop sign or 6 meters of crosswalk. So the 9 meters from the intersection is shown in yellow, the yellow line strip down, yellow, green line, not even sure what it printed out. That's the 9 meter setback from the intersection, and the purple is the 6 meter setback from the crosswalks. So what I've kind of gone through and done is I've laid out, based on the length of space that you need to do to parallel park, I've laid them out and a number of the available parking spaces on this stretch of road from Michigan to Alexandra and past. So as you can see, obviously it's our design that's behind it. So as you can see, our design really is not taking up too many spaces here. So we are bringing back a parking space in front of the police station. That was part of last council, and some spaces, 2 spaces beyond Alexandra, where there's currently 4. On the east side of Alexandra, because it's on the bend in the road, we cannot have parking spaces on that side of the road for safety concerns, because the line of sight coming around the bend, someone wouldn't see you getting out of your car as you come around that bend. So those 3 spaces are quite a hazard, which is why they were eliminated as part of the design. So in terms of available parking spaces between Michigan and Alexandra, as you can see, that kind of paved boulevard space eliminated 2 parking spaces right in front of your business. So in order to get those back, obviously it'd be a trade-off between the paved boulevard versus those 2 spaces. But otherwise, we are limited by how close we can park to the intersection and the crosswalks. Because I know Andrew had mentioned that, you know, people do park closer to the stop sign. Because they do, it doesn't make it legal, and it is a safety concern, because especially when you're parallel parking, if you need to back out of a space and you back into the intersection, that's a serious hazard. Or if you back into the crosswalk and run someone over again, a serious hazard. So those bulb outs really aren't taking up space that was otherwise available, because it is a hazard. Paradigm had actually recommended, so currently it's set at 15 feet. They actually recommended no parking within 30 meters of intersection is what, just for enhanced safety, so that cars backing out of the space. Again, further, we'll have more room from the intersection, but obviously that will lose more parking spaces. So really, we are, basically I started, the bulb outs are as long as they need to be to get past that setback from the crosswalk. And then obviously sweeps back in. There are a lot of driveways, particularly on the west side of the road. So again, limited because the parking are driveways that are there. So the total here that I have on here is 23, 20 being, let's say, the available spaces, because in my opinion, the ones on the curve on the west side of the road or east side of the road should not have been there in the first place for safe line of sight issues. So we're talking 20, and we are losing 1, 2, 3, 4 parking spaces the way it stands. 2 of which are for the paved boulevard area.
Question. And we're putting the spot back in front of the OPP station, are we not?
Yes,
Number 2 there?
we talked about adding another one. Like I said, there was room for 2. But again, there's concerns with how busy this corner is and people getting out of their vehicles. And again, with the ice cream blower driveway as well. It could come back, but we had talked about just using 1.
Help me understand this map. The red squares, those are parking spots?
Yes,
So I think we just all need to be aware too that the new house is being built right down from your store. It's going to be duplex, which means it will either have a double wide or 2 single driveways. And that will also impact parking in that block pretty significantly, right?
there is parking on Alexandra still, on street parking, is there not? So that duplex would have that available as well.
I think I'd like to bring back, if possible, the 2 in front of the store instead. I'd like to have the boulevard as well, but I think parking is probably more valuable.
So can you explain that option, just so everybody's clear? If the to change the boulevard and get the spaces.
Yes.
Explain what that does.
So in this case, obviously, your driveway is right at the intersection, so like, there's no gaining that space back. So really giving you back the 2 parking spaces that are available in front of your store there. It shortens the length of the bulb out, and that was specifically put there to see if you guys would like that paved area. So that was 100% you in mind, that was added to the design. It wasn't, a safety concern or anything like that. So removing that paved boulevard, it doesn't change the design. So we're just cutting back. Basically, we're going to swing the curb back in sooner than later, but we still have to maintain up to that purple line is where our bulb out has to, at minimum, go for kind of shielding the intersection from cars that might be pulling in or backing into our parking space.
So this change that you're mentioning, that talking about changes the number of parking spaces.
It'll allow for 2 more parking
Okay.
spaces than our design currently allows for.
And so, I mean, the first 2 squares in front of their store, the first 2 rows,
Yes.
they will become parking spaces.
Yes.
And the bulb out will start at the end of that red, the last red box. on
It
the
can
left.
start a bit sooner. It's not going to gain an extra parking space because it's not enough for a full length of a car, but it'll make parking a bit more spaced out, if you will. Or if someone has a very small, that guy that drives around a little scooter that's
Yeah.
covered, he can fit into a space in front of there. But like I said, we're limited by because of the driveway that's there. So we'll, tighten it up and bring the bulb out as close to Michigan Ave as we can to maximize
I
the
just
space.
think that would help if we have a lot of elderly people that come in the day, especially. when they park right in front.
If I may as well, this doesn't affect any safety
No.
regulations or guidelines like that.
No, so it'll match just like the other side. So there's, like I said, in terms of parking and near an intersection, that purple line is kind of the regulation and limit. So there's no safety concern with adding those 2 parking spaces back.
And then one last one, and Holly, you're aware that we're going to be putting in a proper crosswalk across Michigan as part of this
Yes, that's
construction.
great.
And so hopefully people will park over by the library and maybe walk across if they feel safer coming to
Yes.
your store. from that
That
way.
is, my kids and I ride our bikes there out there regularly, and it is quite busy there. So I think that's a really good idea.
And we're going to add the bulb outs as well on Michigan to shorten the crosswalk length. So again, just making it safer for children and making pedestrians more visible to drivers that are on the road, because it is quite wide with those 2 kind of parking areas on either side. So that'll be helpful
I like
for
that.
sure. Yes, people coming from the park and wherever, they'll feel more comfortable there. So the parking, and do you want the 2 parking spaces back in front of the police station then? We had spoken about just having the 1.
Well, if you put 2 in, then will it match across the street? Or
It
just the
will,
one will?
the 1, not even 1, so obviously, like again, because of your driveway, so it's not going to be symmetrical, if that's what you mean. If you're looking for it to be symmetrical, then
And there is a bit of a safety concern more there because people coming around the corner,
Yes.
if you're parallel parking in
Yes.
front of the police station, it could become a concern.
I think we should just do 1, put 1 back, but not 2.
okay.
Yeah, because people can wheel around that corner.
But
Yeah, kids running.
It's like that now.
Yes.
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Well,
now.
it's even worse now because people park closer, like your husband said, people park closer to the stop sign or the intersection when they should. So this bulb out's already making it better in terms of how close they can park. Actually, once I sweep back in, you'd probably be hard pressed to get 2 spaces in there anyway. So I'll bring the bulb out back as far as I can and see what kind of space we get there. But it's for sure 1, it'll make room for 1.
A comment through the mirror. Are the OPP aware of that? So I was talking to them out there today, and they were under the understanding they've lost all their parking.
We deal with,
They're dealing with Troy.
no, we're dealing with Chris who comes to police.
Okay, that's what I meant. Okay,
So he probably,
Okay, so
maybe
I was-
hasn't talked with them,
it was Renee. Yes.
but she probably doesn't.
Well, she made a point, strong point to me that
So we talked to
they
him.
weren't happy, so I assumed they didn't know. Maybe it's just her, okay, that's it.
Oh, we
As long
will.
as that gets passed.
We will
Chris.
review it again at the next.
Yep, okay,
And
great.
if at the same time we could, your idea about your church, if we could
Yeah.
pitch, even if they do it for
Seasonal. yeah.
seasonally, like for the May, June, July,
Well,
August.
I mean, I don't mind asking, it's just, I don't know what happened the last, I mean, it came up before with the issue with all the traffic.
So what happened, there was, is it Kristen?
That's a
Minister
different
there?
church. Oh, sorry, that's a different church, that's Anglican.
So we had, we were working on an agreement with Kristen, with whatever church she was at, to use the parking lot right beside the police
Yeah.
station for the, beside the
Beside
fire
Grand
hall.
Hall.
Beside the fire hall for the
Yeah.
police to park their vehicles in that parking lot, and then COVID kind of hit, and it just didn't, it wasn't an issue all of a sudden.
Well, we could
So,
try
but
for
if it's-
both.
If it's becoming an issue again now, then we talked about providing them a few dollars a month, actually,
Yeah.
in return for using those parking spaces. It's only fair, they're,
Yeah.
just use their space, so I can rekindle that conversation.
Okay.
They were pretty supportive of doing it because it
Okay.
would generate a bit of revenue for them.
And I mean, in terms of safety, to have those spaces for the elderly or people with children versus having police officers cross the road.
Yeah.
Benefit that way. it's
I'll
easier.
rekindle that conversation with her.
The parking lot I was talking about was next door to Paul Churchill's house
Okay.
in the back, behind the church, there's a full parking lot.
Mhm.
So, but Grand Hall is probably easier. The way it's lined out. but
It's a
we
little
have
more
to-
visible too,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and I think
So
they
we
would
have-
like that part of it too, more visible.
Yeah.
And we're talking, if it's their person, we're only talking like 3 cars at
Yeah.
most, at shift change, and then probably a couple cars, so, but when they're both parked right across from your store, yeah, the impact is huge, so we can we'll see what we can do.
I mean, if they're gonna take a little bit of rent every month, they would appreciate it,
Mhm.
so.
And don't police have to have fitness requirements, so I mean, you're doing
Yeah.
that steps in, so it's
We can
really a
put- we can
help.
put a donut shop over there.
Stereotype.
Don't go there.
Lydia, can you confirm the crosswalk across Michigan is going to be on the west side of St. Clair? Is that the plan?
It would be on the east side, so
East
on
side.
the ice cream galore side was the intent. Unless, I would have to look, there are restrictions with how close to a fire station
Okay.
entrance that you can put a crosswalk.
Really?
There are. So obviously, the east side would be the furthest away from that to try to meet that requirement.
We were thinking that it was going to be on the west
I
side because
thought it
then,
was
like,
west.
the kids coming from the early learning center, going to the park or to the library would only have to cross Michigan to serve both St. Clair and Michigan and then back.
I can look at it, but there are. I know
If there's
are.
reasons you can't,
Yeah.
then there's reasons. you
So I
can't,
mean,
but-
we might have to, whether or not we get that 20 meters, I'll have to measure that out, but
Okay.
we'll be closer to meeting that target if we're on the east side.
And I think for the kids they're gonna cross St. Clair at a controlled stop.
Yeah,
And then
sure.
cross Michigan with the lights.
Yeah.
And then cross St. Clair again at a controlled stop. So it's a.
It's
It's
doable.
not
it's
terrible.
doable. Yeah, yeah,
just-
yeah.
The other way would have been smoother.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I understand that, yeah.
And for the fire trucks exiting, maybe we prefer not even have to worry about the crosswalk as they
Yeah.
sweep
As they
out onto
sweep
St.
out,
Clair, right?
But obviously, I mean, any driver of any vehicle of any size needs to obviously pay attention.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yes, the update.
Well, no, I probably, the direction to the engineer is now going to be to reinstate the spot, 2 spots in front of, 2 spots on the east side and 1 spot on the west side.
Yeah, I do. So I just would say that it was
Absolutely. And then you can add to the motion, conversation be held at the service board about these parking
Yeah.
as well. We would have the motion.
Yeah. Seconder? All in favor? Okay. So Lydia, we just made a motion just to formalize that those 2 spots go back in front of the store. For one person. Okay. Thank you.
I guess, sorry, I know we had talked about bringing 2 back on the west side of Alexandra. Would you want to explore to see how many I can fit before the bend on that first driveway as well?
The arena side,
Yes. So on the lower,
we were putting 1 in front of each of those houses.
we were gonna put 2 back in,
Right
closer
here.
to the intersection.
We did
It's before the
202,
curve, I
204.
could get, I could probably, based on this, I could get 3 in before the bend on that side of the road, rather than just 2.
I would prefer to see that myself, because that's what I'm hearing about most, is people are most concerned about parking, and you know, everybody.
2 residents there were concerned about.
Yeah.
So I'll amend the motion to have
Okay,
Sorry.
add the third spot on that.
then we have to vote.
And then Tim's okay with the
Yeah.
amendment.
I'll go,
All right,
I'll go along with that.
all in favor? Okay. We got those.
So 3 spots there.
Thank you.
We'll get to work.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Lydia.
Crayons.
Okay, we'll move on to the adoption of the minutes. from the January 24th and February 7th meetings.
I'll move that.
Questions?
Through the mayor, on the January 24th, just wondering if we've got any follow-up back from the county on the use of the county roads for the tuk-tuk?
No.
Okay.
Dave, I know that, I can't remember the gentleman's name that was in, but he's been in touch with them and they're working,
Okay.
but it's gonna take them a little bit of time.
Okay.
I mean, there's been communication back and forth, but no decisions or anything.
Okay, that's fine.
It's underway.
He has announced on social media that he's a go.
So is
Well, then,
it might be a short route.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
all in favor? So that's, there's no business arising from the minutes. We could just ask that question. We'll move on to financial reports, general operations, January 2023.
I'll move that the total revenues and general operations for the month of January 2023 in the amount of $83,145.49 be approved, and that the total expenditures and general operations for the month of January 2023 in the amount of $376,862.89 be approved.
All in favor? Environmental services, January 2023.
I'll move that the total revenues in environmental services for the month of January 2023 in the amount of $384,361.09 be approved, and that the total expenditures in environmental services for the month of January 2023 in the amount of $85,825.07 be approved, and that the updated financial statements for the month of December 2022 showing revenues of $206,959.28 and expenses of $535,862.29 be received and filed.
Questions? Questions? All in favor? Move on to committee reports. First one's operations. For February 14th.
Yep, thank you. Move that the minutes of the operations committee meeting of February 14th, 2020 be approved as circulated. I just have a couple quick highlights before we vote, if I may. We are going to suspend the memorial tree program until we see what we're doing with the new park space by Veterans Park. We are dealing with the Light Street truck delivery issue, and CAO is working on that. Oh, yeah, we completed a SEPTED review of all of our buildings, much like other committees have done. And we have some recommendations that are going forward to the budget. And then we did review the budget, and we added a few things, removed a few things for our March 23rd.
Any questions? All in favor? Fire committee, February 14th.
Okay, I will move that the fire committee meeting minutes held, sorry, the minutes of fire committee meeting held February 14th, 2023 be approved as circulated.
I'll second that.
I have one question, if I may. In the attendance, I'm not listed, and I did chair that meeting on behalf of Councilor Curry.
Thank you, Greg, for filling in.
Thank you.
We'll fix that.
Thank you.
Thanks for noting.
Yes, yeah. I'm sure I get paid for it.
That's taken off mine.
All in favor? Environmental for February 14th.
Move that the minutes for the Environmental Services Committee meeting held February 14th, 2023 be approved as circulated.
Second.
I'll second it.
Just one highlight on there that I want to mention is that the drinking water report is now available. If anybody wants to look at it, it's attached to our website, correct? And it's a lot of work went into that, very detailed, and I appreciate the effort of our management that did that.
It's very detailed. So. All in favor? Finance.
I'll move that the minutes of the Finance Committee meetings held February 13th and 14th, 2023 be approved as circulated.
Questions?
I've got, on the February 13th, in new business, it's got Mayor Hand, CEO Burns, and myself joined the meeting at 6:20 PM. We were obviously there from the start. So I don't know if that was something,
Oh.
because that was the end of the meeting, if that was something that was auto.
Yeah,
So we
that auto
exited.
generates, and
We did it a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
usually we catch it and take it out. We
Okay.
didn't this time, so again, we'll make that.
Okay, is that
I
correct?
can confirm we were here.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know why it does that.
And just on that, I've got just a comment to make. On the 13th, the meeting of the 13th, we had Bridgeview School, Blue Coast Primary Care, Point Edward Minor, and also Pathways make a presentation to us for their grant request for 2023.
Any questions? All in favor? Miscellaneous reports, building permit.
I'll move that the building permit report as updated February 23rd, 2023 being received and filed.
All in favor?
I'll move that the Police Services Board minutes of November 17th, 2022 be approved as circulated.
All in favor? And then communications received and file 1 through 5.
I'll move that 1 through 5 be received and filed.
All in favor? Move on to new business. The first item is the Lambton County Joint Library Facilities Review.
Couple hundred pages there, like reading for everyone. There's a lot of information in there. It's a lot of ideals, ideal situations that they would like to see if they could. And so I think the biggest issue with Point Edward Library, size is about right. Doesn't allow for a lot of growth, but it's about the right size, around 3,700 square feet or so. The biggest concern there is accessibility, obviously, that it's on 3 different levels and one of them is not accessible at all. So that's the concern, and they're just, I think they're wanting us to be aware that if a situation were to arise where they could have a more accessible location, they would like us to explore it. But I think that's kind of where we're at. If there's any feedback that you would like to make to the committee, I believe we have until about the middle of March to do that. Also, they've offered to come and make a presentation if you would like Andrew Meyer or someone from his group to come and talk about this to council, make a presentation about it, they would be happy to do so. Really, it's just information sharing at this point.
To the mayor, I have a question for the
Yes.
CAO. Is there any expectation as how long we can operate the building in its current state?
They're not telling us we have to change in a certain period of time. This is basically just to say, ideally, we would have, again, the size is about right, but ideally it would be on an accessible space. And that's really the only issue we have with the facility. So there's nothing that requires us to change it within 5 years, 10 years. It's just if we ever start looking at facilities, they would like us to consider the library facility in review.
He also said to me too that, like, he appreciates, we do have a library that was built to be a library. A lot of the more rural areas are adapted. But he said he knows that there's competing priorities for resources financially. That's not something we could do right away, but again, it's always in the back of our minds if we have an opportunity to develop a project and reutilize the library for something else, but there was no expectation that it's anytime soon. Any other questions?
I said a comment, I think regarding AODA and accessibility, I think until such time as we do a major renovation of that space, then we bring it fully into compliance. But as long as it just exists as it is with no rentals, we're good. I just think that they do ask for comments by March 20th. I think we should at least have even a basic comment back, just to show that we've read it.
Mhm.
We appreciate the feedback and the comments. We will keep this on our 10-year plan, or we'll keep it
Yeah.
within our.
It's on our
planning.
radar.
Yeah, that we're
Something-
aware of it, and we appreciate their comments, and that we look forward to working with them to when the time comes along. I think they put a ton of work into this plan for us to just not reply.
Yeah.
So I think you can just draft something out that the council reviewed it at their meeting this date, and we're really appreciative. And we're proud of our library, and it's a key part of our village identity, and that's all I would have.
I mean, Councillor,
I just have more of a question. You will bring that back to county council from the village? Is that where it's dealt with at county council, or is it separate?
I'll provide feedback.
Yeah.
I'll send an email off to Andrew, or I think it was Andrew that sent it, but
it was.
back to his group, and then they will compile any feedback to review at county council.
It was interesting. I didn't read it page to page, but I did leaf through all of it to see the different locations in the county where their libraries are and some of the feedback of how it was. And I was just curious if that would be discussed at county council to say how some of the locations are beneficial versus what we have, or how ours is beneficial versus what they have.
He did do a review with us already.
Yeah.
When the report first came out. That's why he came to me and said, don't feel upset that we're telling you that you need a new library.
Mhm.
We're just telling you that, which we already knew, that we have an accessibility issue. So,
I just know there was some that were in the arenas, and some do well there, and there was one that they said didn't do as well. They were
Well,
disappointed in
and,
the traffic.
they moved the Lambton Mall Library to the Clearwater Arena last year.
Yeah.
And they're working on revamping that.
In Thetford's at the arena,
Bedford's at the arena, Wartown has one at
And
the
the other
arena.
one,
Grand Bend's attached to the school.
something, Hampton Shores. Know that arena,
Bedford.
that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big community hall.
Yeah,
right at the
yeah.
water.
They renovated it for
Yeah,
the
it's-
library,
it's
and there was a
lovely
great
up
little
there. Yeah, it's
library
lovely.
in it before.
Yeah.
But they were saying in that report that felt that it was underutilized. That's why I was curious
Yeah.
if there was more feedback, just as far as locations went, and if it's a best way to do it, but it seems like it depends on the community.
I found it interesting comparing the square footages, that they're 0.7 square feet per person, and some municipalities are way low and others are. I found that interesting.
Yeah, there was a lot of good points in it. Like I said, I didn't read it page to page, but I did flip through and catch a few of the highlights.
The next one is 2022 year-end financial transactions. I'm not prepared.
Yeah, so there's a number of issues here that are dealt with in this business item. There's a report that I prepared about about the surplus we had from casino revenue, 450,000 and a few dollars. And then there's some recommendations around what to do with that money. And then also a number of recommendations from the treasurer just around regular year-end business that's done. So you want to just go through those transaction by transaction and explain what they're all like, recommendations, go through one recommendation at a time, or how do you?
Which one are you on? Are you on the casino one or are you on the Tina's?
They're all
request?
together in one, actually. They're,
When I looked at them, I thought they should be handled individually
Yeah,
because it's all different departments and it's a lot of money, so.
so we can just go through them in the order there, and if people have questions.
Because I know the one that was discussed at my committee, I know very well.
Do we deal with the surpluses prior to that? Like, we would look at the surplus at budget time and say, like, roll it into as a whole?
Not
Take it before?
generally, you keep it in the year that it's generated.
Okay,
So,
if you want to spend it on projects that weren't tackled in this past year.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, like this is all money, everything in here is to deal with 2022.
Okay.
You may very well choose to take some of those surpluses from 2022 and use them on
For the
2023
reserve or
projects,
something.
but that would be another transaction, to pull it out of the reserve.
Okay.
It's easier for Tina to track it that way.
Okay.
So if you wish, I'll just go through them.
I just have one question. So there is a comment in your memo
Mhm.
about the waterfront playground, but there's not a motion. This.
Right there, so there was, I'm going to say 6 or 7 things that we considered
Mhm.
putting money to, and then I think we chose 5
Okay.
to make recommendations, and those recommendations can be changed. They're,
Mhm.
that's just what back in, I think, April or so of last year, council asked management to come to them with a list of recommendations on where a surplus would go if there is a surplus generated. So yeah, there were, I think the barrel roof at the arena is another one that we talked about
Right.
considering putting money through it. The ones that we selected there are,
So, I mean, every department had a need.
Mhm.
No department is about the front part. Like, they're looking at their departments and what their departments look. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a separate project and it doesn't really line up.
Nobody owns it.
Nobody owns it,
and no department needs it.
And I'm just gonna make one comment, and I'm fine with whatever happens, but part of the reason the casino money was to go to things that benefit the community and not so much supporting all the things we need, but now it's all the things we need. I
There's
just
that
wanna
one
make a
for you.
comment.
Yep.
So then, I mean, the next time we have to do a report for OLG on community spending, there is money going into a fire truck, and we've done that before, but I just wanted to make that point. We're spending the money differently.
Yeah, so the OLG money is meant for community spending, but then we previously gave 250,000 to cover the water budget. So then by what you're saying, we shouldn't be doing things like that. It should be for community.
It's our choice, and
Okay.
it's as we need it, and it just seems like we're needing it more.
There's
than-
no agreement between OLG and Point Edward saying this is how we'd like the funds spent.
Typically, we talk once a year about how did we spend the money and point out things that we did to, like the splash pad, things that we did to benefit the community.
And this fire truck would qualify as that.
Yeah.
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, it would, and we parked the fire truck over there before as part of the recognition day, so.
And it's been sort of a best practice versus a policy, right? This is what we
Right,
go to.
it's what we try to do, but you know, the last couple of years haven't been the best in order to be able to do that.
So the first recommendation resolution is that we transfer 302,642.41 to the municipal accommodation tax reserve. And that's the amount of money that was generated through MAT in 2022 to be spent, potentially spent in 2023.
housekeeping item.
Great.
I'll move it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Just on a note, we will be getting a little bit more money from that tax, but the number isn't figured out yet. That got lost. Well, I had asked Mark to work out a number a while back, but it relates to a technical issue that Pointer had a different arrangement on costing than the city of Sarnia. So when Sarnia came on board, they agreed that it was only fair that they rebate some money back to Point Edward to cover the percentage difference for the months that we were in before anybody else. So he is working on that number right now. It might be a few $1,000s, but we don't know it yet. All in favor? Thank you.
Second resolution is that the $450,000 casino revenue surplus be allocated to the different reserves, $250,000 to the emergency reserve to offset the environmental services budget, $75,461 to the Bayview Storm Station upgrade reserve, $100,000 to the engine truck replacement reserve, and $25,000 to the Scott Air Pack replacement reserve. Those
I'll
are
move that.
fire issues.
All in
I
favor?
have a question.
Okay, sorry.
So my concern with this is over 2/3 of this money is going to environmental services budget, which is supposed to be self-sustaining department. Is that not the
Bayview,
expectation?
you're right, environmental services is supposed to be self-funding. Bayview Storm Station is not part of it, though. That's part, it's run by the environmental services department, but it's not part of their budget.
So,
Because the storm stations are part of the
Public
village
Works.
budget, yeah.
okay.
And that's the one that we
So-
get some money back from the Blue Water Bridge as well.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
they pay
20%
percent
or
18 or something. that
Okay.
they pay for.
Thank you. Just wanted that clarification.
I do have a question on the fire truck. It says we have a current reserve of 250, so we're putting 100 in here. And then in the proposed 2023 budget, we're gonna put another 100 in, so that will leave us with about 450 in reserve. Is that correct?
Yep.
I just
Yep,
wanted to make
that's right.
sure I was.
On probably $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but he answered. I wondered how much your truck was.
Great. I mean, it's a rough number, but
Yeah.
it's a very rough number, actually. More ways than
Because a lot of it's American money.
potentially.
Yeah, if we go with the last supplier, it's US funds and they go up and down. Okay, all in favor?
The third resolution is that the 8,249 be transferred to the emergency reserve. Those are for a few projects that were completed in 2022 and came in under budget.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Questions?
Lori, second.
So you're transferring, sorry, because I haven't seen this before, I just want to make sure I understand. So you're transferring that 8,000 is extra money that we had, because we didn't spend it all, so now it's going to another reserve?
Yes.
Sort of like a savings account.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, all in favor?
Okay, the fourth one is the lighting project at the tennis courts came in $4,000, $4,074.52 under budget. So this motion would transfer that amount of money back into the Blue Water Power dividend where that project was funded. So we budgeted 10,000, we only spent 6, so we're putting the 4 back there.
How unusual. Any other questions? All in favor?
70,000 transferred back into the MAP reserve, and that's for projects. The big one here is the $50,000 that's budgeted for hot water system at the arena, and then a couple of other projects that weren't completed that were funded through the MAP reserve. So Tina wished to put the money back into the reserve and then bring the projects back forward into 2023. So it's taking the 2022 money, putting it back into the reserve, and then we'll ask to bring the projects forward.
And just a note on the hot water, the arena project. Cancel taking on that, and it's our, up at the committee level, we were gonna take it out of the Blue Water Power dividend. So it's a win-win in for the MAT tax budget.
But dividend, just for your knowledge, Lauren, we've always tried to do energy efficiency projects with that dividend we get every year. And it's always been electrical efficiency, but there's nothing that says like council can use that money whatever way they
Like
wish.
So, and is this new, like just since you moved to Blue Water Power, you started getting this dividend, or you've always had it?
This is because we own the water power, right?
We're
Like we're a part owner.
Oh,
So yeah, every like 20 some years that we've been part owners of the water power, we've been getting this dividend.
So like lighting at the arena, lighting on the pathways,
All the street lights. we
LED
use.
lighting, like we've been doing project after project, all out of the money that we've made from that.
This is the one that's different. We're switching from electric water heaters to gas, but it's still gonna be much more efficient. And it's gonna be a tankless system, so we won't be running huge tanks of water.
and what's the approximate dividend that you receive annually?
40, 45.
Like we're one of the smaller shareholders, but like Simon gets way, it's all proportional to the population.
Also move.
All in favor?
Okay, and then the next one is $7,714.27 to be moved to the promotions reserve. This is leftover money from the, call it the mayor's account, but the promotions account. We budget 25,000, we spent 17,000, so putting the remainder back into reserve for things that like that.
All in favor?
Councilor Burgess seconded
sorry.
that.
Pardon?
I think Councilor Burgess seconded it.
Okay.
Didn't you? Sure, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, sorry. All in
I
favor?
didn't know if you could see him from my
Yeah.
fat head.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one, number 7, is $328,620 to be transferred to the specified projects reserve. So that's projects that were approved in 2022 that have been started but not finished, that we hope to finish in 2023. So you move money into a reserve, then pull it back out after the 2023 budget is approved and put those projects in the 2023 budget. So right now, we're putting 328,000 into a reserve, and then it comes back out after the budget's
Move that.
All in favor?
Okay, can I have a quick question on that?
Yep.
What's two big ticket items in there?
Oh, the big one is the
Digested?
pension.
Yeah.
And that, like,
Okay, that's big.
that's the only big one,
Okay.
Basically all.
our favorite project.
Well, they never go away.
And then the final recommendation is 73,000 to be transferred into the planning and licensing permits, and that's the one about transferring 25% of building fees into a reserve for litigation or what have you down the road. It's the standard that we do every year.
I'll move that one as well.
All in favor? Okay. That takes care of that list.
If I may, can we step away from the agenda for a minute?
Yes, we may.
We have
Okay.
Jared
Hi.
Preston.
Yep.
Is our new planner for the start of the county last Monday. And
Welcome.
he's been assigned to the village, so we'll be running through the ringer and teaching him everything that goes on here in the village. And is Ken here with you today, or is he sitting on your
He's
own?
coming from Watford,
Oh, okay.
so he might be a few more minutes.
So just Jared's fairly recent graduate from St. Catharines.
Yeah, St. Catharines.
And he's done a couple of co-ops or 1 or 2 co-ops with municipal government doing planning work. So is it county, Norfolk?
City of Thorold.
Thorold.
Yeah.
Okay. And he was working in the planning department there, dealing with minor variances and severances as a student. So he has a fairly bit of experience for bringing to the village. And so we look forward to working with him. And he's going to be helping out with a couple of big projects right off the bat with the project over on Exmouth Street, potentially Homes Foundry, all those things. He's going to get his fingers into that stuff and keep us going and make sure that he has the appropriate mentoring as well to go through those projects from Ken or Niagara Planning, whoever. But we're not gonna set him loose on those major projects all by himself, just right off the bat, but look forward and just Ken wanted to take the opportunity to bring Jared in and introduce him to everyone, and he's gonna be here on Thursdays for the most part, and then we'll figure out beyond that.
So we're keeping with our regular schedule. Have you been down to see the office?
Yeah, Jim
Yeah.
took me down last week.
Okay, good. Well, we look forward to
Welcome.
having you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Um, I just had a concern that this is out in the open. And it's a tenant. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're public,
It's public,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah, they're
Just feels-
public documents. Because any tender would be, I mean, it's not a trademark.
Okay, all right, it's just got pricing on it. Just want to be sure.
It would be inappropriate to do that. Still at the getting.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure because I just felt. Okay. So how do you want to start? We have two proposals.
Yeah. Now I got another email from Summit PCG today, talking about one of the partners that they're going to be working with that has done more strategic planning work than what the documents they shared with us. So it's worth, I think both proposals are people that know the village fairly well. Obviously, Brian Boyle's been in the county for years and years and years. I'm more in the agricultural side of things. He knows municipal government. He knows the area well. And then, of course, the principal in the PCG Summit Group is Jake Pastori, that worked with the village for many years through OLG. So I think both of them know the village quite well and would be capable of leading us through a planning exercise. The one piece that the PCG Summit Group offers is that media training. That's something that interests the group. It's a kind of a throw into their proposal.
Let's start questions.
Right, you want to do questions first for a motion? Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's do some
I have
comments here.
questions, so.
So I was prepared to push for or recommend the Summit PCG group, just from a different style or different approach. And however, I wasn't really impressed with the documents they sent us. There wasn't a strategic plan given to us. And so that's turned me off. So I would be willing to support Brian. My only reluctance in Brian's proposal was his finished product. It's not flashy. It's not graphically designed, much like the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority. And most strategic plans have a little more pizzazz to them. And his is more of a Word document, which it's the facts that matter, not the flashing lights. But so that was my only two comments on both proposals.
My comment was, I mean, I know Jake, he was in a totally different business and all of a sudden he called one day and said he's doing this business, but they don't say who they work for. I don't have any comparison where I've worked with Brian on some of those things he's listed. I've been involved. He's local and he's cheaper. So those are my comments.
Oh, got some comments in it. And mine was similar to Jim. And I saw no strategic plan in Greg as well. No examples of that. Whereas Brian's got all kinds of strategic plans for municipalities, in the agriculture field, because that's his background. So, I'm fairly comfortable going with Brian on this for PCG. And the flash doesn't matter. It's the document that we need, right?
I was just thinking that was a low bid. This is not within my scope of expertise, so that was the first thing. And the fact that it's a local group from Lincoln County, that's kind of cinches the deal.
So the one caution I will have about Brian is I got this proposal from him probably 2 months ago. And so his timelines were based on knowing 2 months ago. And that's where his timeline comes from. So it may get adjusted, it may not. He might still be able to do that timeline, but that'll be the only change to that.
Oh,
So-
I just, that would, isn't his fault,
No,
right?
no,
So,
No,
I just,
again, generally when you're taking a bid and you're going to a higher bidder, you need to be able to explain why. And I don't see a justification.
I just wanted to
Yeah.
council be aware that
That's fair.
we
Okay.
might not meet those timelines, but I would assume shortly. Outside of those.
So if I can move, that we go Brian Boyle since I pitched this 3 years ago, so. As the preferred vendor for.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Now, this MASH software presentation is scheduled for 6 o'clock. I'm sure, like it's Imran that's making the
Yeah.
presentation to us,
Get 'em.
and he's in school until 6 o'clock.
Oh, you can't.
So I'm sure he wouldn't mind rescheduling to a different night if you want to, or we've probably got another 10 or 15 minutes of business here. So
And it's, yeah, it's not a high
It's not
priority.
it's not like it's,
It's not
Critical.
outstanding, I
Yeah,
just
or-
wanted to be able to show it to us, so,
Yeah, I'm on for
Yeah,
rescheduling.
yeah.
yeah.
I'm sure he won't have a problem.
Right, text, I'm texting now,
Oh,
I've got my phone
Before
here
we-
somewhere.
I've been on it.
unless my face.
You've been posting some weird stuff on Facebook.
So then we're gonna reschedule the MASH presentation. And has anybody else got new business? I have some things I was gonna bring up. Put together. Unless anybody else have anything?
Is the procedural bylaws not coming forward tonight?
It's under bylaw. It's the second item under the bylaws, which we can talk about.
Okay. Sorry, Mary.
Okay, so we've talked for a long time about the casino mural, and that's in progress. They've got their design ready and I don't know when they're gonna put it up, but they've got the design finalized. We did sign a new agreement with OLG. Don't get excited, but maybe. If they put sports gaming in Point Edward, we're gonna get additional revenue. So we signed an agreement that we would collect additional revenue if it gets, this area gets selected.
So they may set up an area for sports gaming like in Las Vegas with the TVs.
This new thing, and
Makes
that's
sense.
another 4%. And they don't tell you you're getting it, but you sign the agreement if you get it.
Okay, okay.
So it's just, it's out there, and if they do pick Point Edward, then that could come sometime. Tomorrow, I've got county budget. Starting at 9, so the base budget is 2.96%, but there's a big initiative for affordable housing that would put $2 million for 2023. It's part of a 10-year plan on the affordable housing in Lambton County is way below some of the other centers that we compare to. So it's a project to up the available housing over the next 10 years. And if they do the strat plan for that with the base, they're projecting at this point 3.9% as an increase. But again, everybody needs tomorrow and see what it ends up at. Proposed is 3.90. Talked to Clinton at Laws. We talked about the washrooms, and just because we've been on this issue, but they won't be able to keep them open this year longer. Like Laws is spending $16,000 on redoing some of the refurbishing the inside of the washrooms, but that won't winterize it at this point. That would be much more money. So they will close after November the 11th for the year until, unless there's another project down the road that winterizes it. But they're putting $16,000 into new stalls.
I mean, on that, would there be interest in that having us in the city partner to winterize that washroom? I wonder, like, would that push them over the,
It was the city's washroom.
Yeah.
I think Laws is spending the money to do it.
right? That's what if it's a $10,000
I can ask.
Yeah,
but
could-
I'm not sure. They've taken over the Rotary,
Yeah, Plaza,
Yeah.
Plaza.
the managing that.
Yeah.
And they've taken over the washroom. So we voted on that budget.
Yeah.
For a one-year project.
Okay.
But Clint does have a plan. He does have a project in the works, but I just don't think it's gonna get approved this year, or it won't get approved this year. We've already done it, but the winterizing was, I can't remember the number, like much larger.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's why it was out for a year, because the
Yeah.
pipes
I
froze.
remember that, yeah. And that was in the spring, I think.
The pipes froze and burst, and then nobody fixed it during COVID, and then Laws went in and fixed it and then opened it again. So it's not gone, but and I already talked about this potential of some money back from Laws for the mat tax issue.
Yeah, so
Sorry, TSL, thank you. I'm going on vacation March 27, and Greg's going to cover the March 28 council meeting, and I'm going to sign on remotely. So that's all. Nobody else? Okay, then we'll move on to bylaws. First one is,
Bylaw to appoint committee members. So I sent a note out this morning that I made a change, maybe it was yesterday, I sent it out, that we
Okay.
added Doug Booth as an alternate to the one committee. We did have, just for council's information, the gentleman that's joined us for the last couple meetings, Brian Melick is his name. He did submit an application. He sent it about the 29th of December or something like that. It went to my junk email for some reason. And the reason we found it is because he sent an email about the fire pit. And he didn't see it in the public comments, so he asked me where his comments were, and so I didn't get any. And so I went to my junk email to find them and found both. So I talked to him, and he understands he's not upset or anything, but just there is another person up there in the village that's interested in being involved for future reference. So
What did you apply for?
he,
Questions?
I
You don't think that's,
yeah, I don't remember.
that's fine. You can
Don't
just send me the.
I can move this bylaw. I move that bylaw number 9 of 2023, being a bylaw to appoint committee members for the village of Point Edward, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on this 28th day of February 2023.
all in favor? Okay. Next one, bylaw 10.
This is the review of the personnel bylaw.
gonna have a discussion, or we're gonna move it first?
Get a mover and second, really great
I'll
to discuss it.
also move that bylaw 10 of 2023 being a bylaw to regulate the proceedings of the council and committees of the corporation of the village of Point Everett be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed on this 28th day of February 2023.
Second that for discussion.
Questions?
So any changes that I've made based on the discussion we had a couple of weeks ago are highlighted in yellow. So this, the part that talked about referring back to bylaw 17, whatever, that just was removed completely. I changed the timeline for people to submit. If a member of the public wants to be on a meeting, I've changed that to Wednesday from Thursday. And then I've added in a piece that when I publish the agenda on Friday, if a member of the public wants to address an item on the agenda, that's item 15F, that they notify me by 3 o'clock on the Monday, the day before the meeting. So that's, they can't bring a new item in, but they can let me know they'd like to address an existing item in the agenda.
Okay, so yeah, so agenda goes up Friday, I read it, public reads it Saturday, they can contact you and say, I want to come and talk to you.
So they have all day Monday to call in.
Because that wasn't in.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
And then I added the land acknowledgement in, just a housekeeping piece on your ongoing task carried forward as a housekeeping piece. This community events, public announcements is kind of those quick, one-line items like that people like to address. There's a new item there.
And just, I can clarify, the reason I asked that, is our procedure bylaw says that under new business, something to bring forward is a notice of motion
Mhm.
to be brought forward to the next meeting. So, and I know so this allows to capture a lot of our things that we want to do last minute. So,
I changed Her Majesty the Queen to His Majesty the King. That was it. I believe.
No, you can't.
No other bylaw.
way past that.
So those are the changes that were made as a result of up to this point.
Anybody have questions? No questions? Okay, all in favor? You're talking, I forget, we had a move in a second already. Confirmation bylaw?
I'll move that. That bylaw number 11, 2023, being a bylaw to confirm the resolutions appointed over council, which were adopted up to including February 23rd, 2023. You read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed on this day.
All in favor? Motion to adjourn.
Councilor Burgess and I will decide.
Okay, you already got it worked out. Okay, all in favor?
We need the minutes.